You record too, Barry? Let's bow in, everyone. So welcome to the Buddhist Path of Awakening course as we work our way through Volume 1 of the Profound Treasury of the Ocean of Dharma, The Path of Individual Liberation is the title of this volume of 3, one of 3. Tonight, John Tyler and I are going to be covering Chapter 55, a rather longer chapter. And John is going to lead off. It's called Perpetually Recreating Suffering, this chapter. Cheery title. John, take it away.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm gonna start off, and Sholem Trungpa says at the outset, the origin of suffering is based on a belief in eternity. And he goes on to say that this belief is an example of the difference between theism and non-theism. And as we know, I think Buddhism is a non-theistic non-theistic system. Our sense is a sense of emptiness as opposed to that of eternal life. But in general terms, what Trungpa is referring to is how we work so hard to maintain ourselves, how we have a hope, an everlasting hope of eternal life, and how we structure our existence around that belief. And he says, it evolves out of the concept of I and other, and it also points at a very large fear of death. And so as we look outward from ourselves, we see others, and this comes out of the discussion of the skandhas, the evolution of ego, the way we deal with our world as we see it. We grasp at that world, we use it as a crutch in order to maintain ourselves. We structure our existence around looking for ways to occupy ourselves, or as he is fond of saying, ways to entertain ourselves. And out of this process of groping for stability comes the development of the kleshas. And as he says, the vicious cycle of samsara goes on and on. We have worked to try to understand the workings of samsara, and only in this way will we be able to understand how to work with it. And that is the path. That's where the path becomes so important, because it breaks down the fixation of holding onto ourself and to others, which is at the root of the origin of suffering. We go on to discuss kunjang, the concept of the origin of suffering. Kun meaning everything, and jung meaning arising. He says there are two types of kunjang: the kunjang of the kleshas and the kunjang of karma. And the kunjang of the kleshas involve a person's state of being or state of mind. They don't involve action. That's the difference between the kunjang of kleshas and the kunjang of karma. The kleshas, such as passion, aggression, arrogance, ignorance, are all internal situations. They're purely mental events, self-created. If something comes to our mind, or comes to your mind, an expression of aggression or passion or for instance, if you recognize it immediately, it does not carry the same weight as if you acted on it. And these, I think this is one of the things that we begin to learn as we practice. And finally, he says that the Kunjung of Kleshas could be said to be the embryonic expression of the Kunjung of Karma. And again, the Kunjung of Karma involves decisions that lead to actions in our dealings with others. Karma represents actually doing something. And I want to point out that as we evolve as Buddhists, if we receive a thought in our mind and see the futility of it, realizing it is just a game, it can be a saving grace, in that we don't necessarily enter into an expression of the kleshas or the creation of karma. And in a sense, to me, it seems as though that's the point of the practice of meditation. So we go on to talk about the 6 root kleshas, the conflicting emotions that lead to suffering. So there are, in typical Buddhist fashion, there are 6 root kleshas, but there are also 20 secondary kleshas. The 6 root kleshas are the ones we're familiar with: desire, anger, pride, ignorance, doubt, and opinion. And John and I were discussing this earlier today, and these designations sometimes change, but they point to the same basic concept of suffering. The 20 secondary kleshas are really variations on the 6 root kleshas. They include indignation, resentment, slyness or concealment, spite, jealousy, avarice, deceit, dishonesty, mental inflation, malice, shamelessness, lack of a sense of propriety, gloominess, ebullience, lack of trust, laziness, unconcern, forgetfulness, inattentiveness, and desultoriness, last but not least. But I think the important point is that the consequences of the kleshas are monumental, and I think we realize that in hindsight as we come to Buddhism. If you tend to look back over the course of your life, you can see some of the very dramatic impacts of the kleshas. So having the kleshas come as a result of the concept of I and other. Your focus is on it. Your focus is on an object. You become confused, and out of confusion, and in an effort to maintain your stability, comes these kleshas, the passion, aggression, or ignorance. That's a response, more or less, to the object that you're observing. And these conflicting emotions are the ups and downs and the irregularities that take place in your mind that create your consciousness and your thought processes. So I'm going to do a little summary of the 6 root kleshas, and then I'm going to go through each one individually. There is a statement in the chapter that says that the 6 root kleshas are known as that which disturbs tranquility. So having created an object and directed your attention to it, you develop further confusion. You do not know who you are or what your actual desires are. And out of all possible possibilities comes mistaken perception. And in the basic mental setup, the kleshas begin to arise. The kleshas represent ways that we use to fill the space of ego. or I'm sorry, the space with ego entertainment. And this is the ongoing dilemma of the human situation. So the kleshas are born out of confusion, of not knowing what to do. They arise as a sudden flickering of thoughts, and they're driven by the ever-present I-other interaction. And I think it's interesting to note that the place where we find tranquility rather, whereas we have a difficult time finding it in our day-to-day space, we really do find it in shamatha meditation. That is a place where we can finally experience this tranquility, free of the kleshas. So the first klesha is desire. This is more like lust than desire. You become, he says, horny about yourself and your state of bewilderment in the human condition. The second klesha is anger, and that grows out of this passion. Because you're unable to resolve the horniness, you experience anger. And again, the third klesha, pride, and that it grows out of anger and your inability to fulfill yourself. And as a substitute for that comes you become prideful or arrogant, and it's a sense, you develop that sense as a sense of self-preservation or self-maintenance. The next klesha, the fourth root klesha, is ignorance, and after pride comes carelessness, uncertainty, or ignorance. This ignorance is different than the original triggering processes. It is a stupefied sort of non-caring. And the fifth root klesha is doubt, and ignoring develops into the fifth klesha, doubt. You don't trust any alternatives, and you don't want advice on a way out. You doubt even the sensible norms of everyday existence. And I think you can get a sense as these kleshas evolve of the confusion that's involved in the normal state. Finally, the sixth klesha, view, comes from doubt. View is opinion. You form certain opinions. You use opinion to solidify your trip. That is your wish to develop stability. So you say, this is my view, this is my idea, that is what I believe in, and it's the right thing to do. And I think, in summary, these kleshas, in many respects, could be associated with the six realms as well. Each of the kleshas, in a certain way, might be associated with one of the realms. And in terms of the kunjung of kleshas, really, ignorance, passion, and indifference are the source of all suffering. In very general terms, passion refers to the confusion of always wanting to grasp the next possible solution or situation, and by clinging to situations, we perpetually give birth to desire. And underlying passion is uncertainty, bewilderment, and finally ignorance. So the origin of suffering could be said to be fundamental ignorance, basic bewilderment, and suffering our existence. Fundamental ignorance represents our refusal to relate at all to the totality of suffering. So we want things our way. We don't want to, or we're in a confused enough state that we don't, we use the kleshas to maintain the stability. We don't want to accept other explanations. And I think in conclusion, I would say that under these conditions, the only real possibility of moving away from the kleshas or getting relief from the kleshas is through meditation. That I'll turn it over to John.
Okay. I'm going to go back over this just a little bit. Basic notion, all of this originates with what in Buddhism is called ignorance, or translated into English as ignorance. The term in Sanskrit is avidya. A is a negative, vidya is to see. So it's not seeing or not knowing. Same thing in Tibetan, ma rikpa. Ma is a negative, rikpa is the translation, Tibetan translation for vidya. So it's not seeing, not knowing. This kind of seeing is a kind of knowing. And the way in which we stop seeing and begin to experience avidya or mavrikpa is that suddenly here we are in this space right now. We can all just take a moment and come back here to this space. You're looking at me in this computer screen. You can feel your bottom on the chair or the cushion, whatever you're sitting on. You hear these words. It's all very open, clear, awake. And in the middle of this open space of knowingness, in which everything is arising and passing away in the instant, we focus on something as being important, the other. In this case, it might be the person that you're looking at on the screen, me, and hearing these words. And not seeing that other, it implies the existence of a listener, a perceiver, I, here. I am hearing these words spoken by this guy on the screen. Do I understand them? Do they mean anything? Are they important? Are they helpful? Suddenly we have this whole back and forth going. It didn't exist a moment ago, but as soon as we concretized something that we're looking at as other, it implies the existence of a perceiver here. That implies the existence of this. And then the question is, what's the relationship between them? Is there one? Well, the whole thing is a mental creation. The other, and now the I. We've created these things in the moment. And a second later, they could disappear. You hear a sound, a honk in the street, your attention goes there, the I other is gone. So we're constantly creating others out there, and that implies the existence of an I, which raises the whole issue of relationship, the relationship between this I and this other. And the problem is that as soon as we give up the little drama of I and other, like there's this I out there, and do I really understand what he's saying? Do I think it's any good? I, as soon as we give that up, as soon as that evaporates, the whole I other relationship evaporates with it. So I wants to keep it going because that's the way in which I affirm my existence. We're constantly saying, oh, do I like this? Do I dislike this? Am I indifferent to this? What am I going to do with this? I. And the I only exists in the dramatic storyline back and forth between I and other. As soon as we stop that story, I evaporates, and so does other. And there's just here, space with phenomena arising and passing away. And then we think, well, what does that mean? And we're back to it again. The other, what does it mean? And the I, how do I understand it? And suddenly we've got this drama again. So you see the whole thing of confusion, of I and other, which is the story of ego and confusion, is a story. It's a constant retelling or evolving story that we tell. And as soon as that story evaporates, disappears, ends for a moment, I and other disappear with it. Now, we're constantly then, I is constantly trying to keep the story going, because that's how I keep me alive, me and my importance, me and my problem, me and my hopes for the future. If I can only understand this, then I will get enlightened. And we've got this drama going about I. What am I going to get out of it? What am I going to suffer if I don't understand it? I. And so the I lives in the stories that we create in our lives. You meet somebody on the street and you begin talking to them, and the question is, do you like them? Do you dislike them? And you've got another drama going. It's like we're constantly involved in television dramas. They have the aspect, and Rinpoche calls it all this, says this all the time, it's the quality of entertainment. That's what I needs. It's this game. Sometimes the entertainment is pleasurable. Sometimes it's painful. Just like sometimes you're watching a sad movie or a horror story. Sometimes you're watching a comedy or a romance. All the stories that we live in our lives, they keep the I-other game going. And that's confusion. That's samsara. And as long as we do that, we are going to be subject to the vicissitudes of those games. You can't really control them. You have a good game, but then it goes bad. You think you're in love with this person, and then they leave. Whatever it might be. They hurt you. Those dreams go bad. And yet, they still keep the game, the entertainment value of I-other alive. This is the fundamental problem. And these relationships, I and other, are characterized as being fraught with emotion. And that's why they're called the kleshas. Klesha means defilement. And so there are a number of basic ones. He goes through these 6 here. This is a less common enumeration. More common are the 6 kleshas associated with the 6 realms. Pride of the God realm, jealousy of the jealous God realm, passion in the human realm, stupidity or sort of stupid hunger in the animal realm, and poverty mentality in the jealous ghost realm, constantly feeling like you're poor, and hatred, aggression, fear in the hell realm. And these are the different styles of how the relationship, I-other, the game of entertainment, can take form. Sometimes they're pleasurable, as when you're in the God realm. Somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, John, you look great today. Oh, John, I really enjoyed your talk last night." And I'm like, "Ooh, that's great. That makes me feel good." God realm. Somebody comes up and says, "Boy, that talk last night was a piece of junk. You were terrible. What was wrong with you? Were you sick?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, yuck," And you're in a hell realm, or you're in a hungry ghost realm, wishing things were different. We get plunged into these realms in our relationships between I and other. Constantly happens to us throughout our days. The I-other relationship takes one form or another. Sometimes it's pleasurable, and we're in the positive realms, which are the God realm, the jealous God realm, which is sort of pleasurable, and the human realm, which is, it goes both ways. Sometimes we're in the lower realms, which are not nice. The animal realm, which is the realm of just eating whatever comes in front of your nose. Or the worse yet, the hungry ghost realm, where you feel constantly impoverished. You can't get enough nourishment of whatever kind you want, praise, food, wealth. You're poor. And then the worst, of course, is the hell realm. Anger, hatred, fear. Fear characterizes the hell realm. Fear of your own well-being or even your existence. So we're subject to these, and he says, he talks about the klesha. He talks here also about, even more fundamental than these kleshas, which are the 6 realms, and then he talks about the 6 kleshas here that John went through, slightly different enumeration. Here in this chapter, these 6 kleshas are, some of them are the same: desire, anger, pride. Those are the 3 from desire is human realm, anger is hell realm, pride is God realm, ignorance, you could say, is animal realm. But then he gives us two that we aren't in the realms, doubt and view. I'm not going to go through them. John has done that somewhat, and you can go back and look at them. So there are different kinds of kleshas, but the main point of the klesha is that it is the embodiment of our unhappiness of the relationship between I and other. Even pride, the feeling of the God realm, it has within it a seed of unhappiness, like maybe this won't last. If a person comes up and says, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're handsome," and you're thinking, "Whoa, that's great," and then but in the back of your mind is, "And it won't last. I'll get old and I'll get crummy looking." So even the good ones have the seed of suffering in them, and of course the bad ones, they're just solid suffering. So the kunjung, that term, John mentioned it. Kun means all, jung means to arise. It's the kunjung of kleshas, which is another word for samsara, for suffering. It's constantly coming up, this I-other problem. So, and then, even more fundamental than the kleshas are what are called the three poisons. And you see them in the wheel of life, at the center of the wheel. There's a chicken, a pig, and a snake. These are the fundamental energies of all of the kleshas. The chicken represents the desire to pull the other to you because you want to consume it, because it's going to make you bigger, better, happier. The snake is aggression. You want to push the other away because it threatens your well-being. And the pig is indifference. You don't care. It's not for you, it's not against you, it's indifferent to you. And so you just sit there. Usually that's translated as ignorance, and that's a bad translation of the Sanskrit, which is moha, and the Tibetan, which is timuk. Both of them mean sort of a stupidity, a dullness. You're not for it or against it. These are the three poisons. And there are the three ways that I and other can relate. They can come together, they can fall apart, they can stay the same distance. Coming together is passion, getting apart is aggression, and staying the same distance is stupidity. Call it ignorance. I would call it dullness. Timuk. So the karmic patterns that lead to suffering. It all begins with ignorance, which creates this I-other split. And once you've got this I-other split, then you start acting in a relationship with the other. This relationship and this action, pushing it away from you, pulling it toward you, feeling its qualities, consuming it, whatever it might be, this is called karma, action. Karma literally means action. And here it means cause and effect. And we get caught up in the karma, which is the description of the relationship between I and other. And these are described in detail in a doctrine called the 12 Nidanas. And these are the 12 steps of karma. Another name for this doctrine is Pratityasamutpada, easy for me to say, right? In Sanskrit, what it means in English is dependent co-origination. And that means that all of these actions of karma arise in dependence on each other, that they're all interconnected. None of them have any true existence all by themselves. They only exist coming out of each other and temporarily for the moment, and then they're gone. These are the nidanas, and we can study them at another time, but they're in the wheel of life. When you see the wheel of life with that demon holding the wheel, Yama, that's Yama, the Lord of Death. He's holding the wheel. And there are 6 divisions. Those are the 6 realms. And outside them, there are 12 divisions. And those are the 12 nidanas. That's the motion of karma. So he says we can continue to create further karmic momentum or not. The reason, as John mentioned, that we get peace or tranquility in meditation is we cut this whole chain of karma, this whole chain of the reactivity of I and other. We cut it how? By coming present, by coming out of thought We stop going back and forth. We come present just right here, and we get tranquility, peace. But normally, when we're caught up in karma, we're trying to perpetuate pleasure and avoid pain, down to the very smallest details, he says. We could watch ourselves doing that. This process takes place all the time. We do it all the time. And it's both the product of suffering and the producer of suffering. It's important to see this clearly without deception or spin. For now, it's better to be very realistic. This is important because when we begin to see how I, other, is a fiction, it's like a TV drama that we're constantly creating, changing, living. It's like I gets bored, right? Bored means it's about to disappear, die, with nothing to do. And so what does it do? It creates a drama, turns on the TV set of the mind. Now, there are two main types of karma. There is unmeritorious karma, and there's meritorious karma. Unmeritorious karma comes from fundamental aggression, from resentment and anger. You attack the other. It's just that you're telling yourself a bad story. It's a bad TV drama. It's a nasty one. And you have all sorts of wicked desires to do things to the other. You want to get even. You want to get nasty. And there are 10 evil acts that are described as being bad karma, unmeritorious karma. And there are some that are connected with the body, some with speech, and some with mind. These are the three aspects of being: body, speech, and mind. Body means sort of presence. Speech means the quality of communication, and mind is what is communicated, meaningfulness. These are the three aspects of reality: body, speech, and mind. So, connected with the body, the first three: taking life, killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, whatever that means. A mixture of passion and aggression. All three are attempts to bring the outer world into your own wicked world. You're trying to build up some kind of empire based on your own version of things. These three are all conditioned by motives, ulterior motives, ways of self-aggrandizement, ways of building up me. Stealing, killing, and improper sex, whatever that is again. We've gotten pretty loose about sex these days. I think it has to do really with abusive sex, where you're hurting the other person. All of them, whether lawful or unlawful, are connected with the scheme of rejecting and accepting. It all boils down to that. The unmeritorious karma of speech. One is telling lies. The second one is intrigue, based on trying to break down opposition to you by winning some people to yourself and putting off others. Create a little warfare. 6 is negative words, the unmeritorious karma of speech, number 6. You feel you can proclaim tremendous wisdom by speaking critically of somebody or some topic. Harsh words as weapons that you hope will give you power over others, enable you to destroy all sorts of things, enemies. And finally, 7, gossip, anything other than functional talking. And you use it to destroy those who have developed great exertion and discipline. You lure others into discursive thought, chattering to bring them low, or for entertainment. Always entertainment. All of this is for entertainment. The entertainment of ego. It keeps ego alive. Unless we're being entertained, ego disappears. So ego is always looking for something, even painful things. Keep ego alive. Ego's then got a job to try and get rid of the pain. And finally, there's the unmeritorious karma connected with mind, 8, 9, and 10. Envy, connected with wishful thinking and poverty mentality. You feel basically inferior. You have less, whatever it might be. And when you look at somebody who has more, than you feel greedy and hurt. You feel bad. You wish you had what they had, and you feel like you're less than. So you invent all sorts of logics and reasons in order to prove them wrong. You indulge in one-upmanship. I'm taking this right out of the text pretty much. Trying to bring them down. You feel you might be excluded, so you stick to your particular logic, your jumbled up confusion, your poverty mentality. That's envy. That's a nasty one. Number 9 is deliberately hoping to create harm, having bad feelings about somebody, ill will toward them, aggression, resentment, hatred. You want to create harm. You want to do harm to them. And 10, this is all connected with mind, is disbelieving in truth and disbelieving in sacredness. You don't want to think about them because you just want to get stuff from me. You refuse to work with a sense of reverence. You don't believe in fundamental dignity. You believe in the wretchedness of the world rather than its sacredness. Everybody's out to get something for themselves, and I'm going to get mine. So you tear down what is sacred, what is meaningful, all towards the idea of getting mine. And then there's meritorious karma. Now, meritorious karma is still karma. It's still enslavement to ego. But it's the reverse of all of these negative forms of karma. It still produces suffering, but not as much. When you create meritorious karma, you create a happier, more relaxed, more peaceful state of mind in which you can begin, if you are inclined, to pursue the Dharma, to practice the Dharma. So meritorious karma doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to practice the Dharma and get enlightened, but it definitely creates a happier, calmer, more peaceful state of mind in which you can do that. And the 10 meritorious deeds are just the reverse of the 10 unmeritorious deeds. So taking life becomes having respect for life. Stealing, theft becomes the practice of generosity. Sexual misconduct becomes sexual wholesomeness and friendship. Lies become practicing truthfulness and wholesome speech. But you see, there's still ego involved. So there is still karma involved. These are still karmic. Intrigue becomes being straightforward. Harsh negative words become good and wisdom that you might pronounce like this. These teachings. Gossip, it transforms into simplicity and meaningfulness. Greediness and wishful thinking into openness. Destructive thoughts and bad feelings transform into gentleness. And disbelieving in sacredness, the 10th one, becomes committing yourself to understanding sacredness and the Dharma. So there are 6 types of karmic consequence that are, resulting from these different types of karma, positive and negative. And they organize our world badly in 6 sections. And we'll just go through each one. They're predictable, since our world is created from passion, aggression, and ignorance. We always get back to that. Even with good karma, with practicing generosity. If we're practicing generosity to get a result, like we think we're going to produce gratitude, then it's still ego. It's just a better form of it. As an example. So the first one is the power of volitional action. Has 4 subcategories. And the first one is good beginnings, bad endings. So for instance, you're born a human being, but in the end, you wind up in bad circumstances, in poverty, suffering, loneliness, anger, who knows what. Second one is bad beginning, good ending. So he gives us an example. You're born into a mafia family, but you have resources to do good things, and you do good things. The third is bad beginning, bad ending. It's like being born into hellish circumstances and being forced to remain in that bad situation. And these things are not just about our whole lives. This is could be moments in our lives. And the fourth is good beginning and good ending. Your volitional action is good and what you receive is good. Being born happy, wealthy, well off, and staying that way through generosity and all the other things that you might practice. And then you can experience what you've planted. You can experience the result of the three poisons: passion, wanting to pull it to you; aggression, push it away; and indifference. And you can experience them now or in your next birth, and that could be literal or figurative, like it could be tomorrow, or it could literally be after you die. And you experience the karmic consequences of ripening from a previous birth. And again, that can be literal, like from past lives, that you're experiencing the karmic consequences now, your birth here. Or it could be the results of what you did yesterday, now coming to fruition today. You experience the karmic consequences of an act of generosity that you committed yesterday, today, or an act of cruelty that you committed yesterday, and you experience the karmic consequences today. White karmic consequences. These are good ones. Emulating the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, produces good karmic results naturally. Emulating and appreciating someone else's virtue. You emulate them. You try to be like them. That can produce good karmic results. And practicing the Dharma means you have a good karmic situation in spite of your wandering mind. So when we sit regularly, we are creating good karma for ourselves. Our minds are calming down, through the practice of meditation. You can't force that to happen, but it's happening. Changing the karmic flow by forceful action is the fourth one. Although you've ended up in a very bad situation, you can suddenly change the karmic flow with a tremendous, quite sudden and forceful effort, he says. You can give birth to a new life, figuratively speaking, a change of your karma just with big effort. Shared karmic situations, national and individual. So for instance, I think of what's going on in Israel right now, Israel and Lebanon, and with the Israelis and Hamas and all of that. And there is a national karma of the war between the two entities and personal karma, people being killed, blown up, unhappy. I think of Nazi Germany, the national karma of the country and the individual karma of the people who were caught up in all of that. And then there's the interaction of intention and action with four subcategories. You can have a white intention and a white action. So you have the intention to do good and you do good. Or he gives us an example, respecting your teacher and having devotion. This produces health rather than ill will and resentment. A black intention and black action. You murdered someone or destroyed something. You had a black intention to kill them and you did. White intention, black action. You kill one person to save many, he says. The intention is white, the action is black, has a positive effect. And finally, black intention, white action. So being generous to your enemy while you're trying to poison your enemy. That's a good one. And how many times have we each experienced that one way or another of doing harm to our enemy under the guise of trying to be helpful? So all of these karmic consequences are partly produced by being in the wrong environment and partly by our own neurosis. In other words, it can be the situation that we find ourselves in, situation of aggression, and it can be our own neuroticism too, an income combination. It's hard to change. The only way to do so is by arousing personal inspiration to try and change one's national and individual karma. I remember the Vietnam War. There's national karma and all of the people protesting it, individual. Unplugging samsara. So he says, the Hinayana strategy to cut the root of samsara. We unplug or disconnect everything. We interrupt the flow of karma. by first interrupting our ignorance and then our passion. How? By coming back into awareness of the present moment, of something in the present, could be the breath, could just be this present moment. As soon as we do that, we cut the thoughts, we cut the emotions, we cut the kleshas, and we achieve a kind of peace of resting here and now. It says we have unplugged the refrigerator. That's what he says in here. By realizing the one-fold egolessness, that's the egolessness of I. Whenever we come back to just simple awareness of this and let go of the I statement, we've unplugged I. It says first, we have to interrupt our ignorance, and secondly, we also have to interrupt our passion. By interrupting both our ignorance and our passion, we have nothing happening in terms of the samsaric world. We have unplugged the refrigerator. This is the Hinayana stage of the path. We haven't begun to develop deeper understanding yet of emptiness and so forth, of reality. But we have unplugged the mechanism of egotism and suffering by simply coming back to awareness of an object in the present moment. So with that, I'll stop, and we could have a discussion if you like. A lot in here.
Would you like to see this wheel of life?
Yeah, let's put it up.
I got a great image here.
We've all seen this, I think, but we'll take a look at it again. Here it is. The demon holding it is Yama. He's the Lord of Death. He wears that crown of 5 skulls. You can see it up there. Those are 5 of the kleshas. And he's got the wheel, he's holding it in his hands and resting it on his knees, you might say. The outer ring is the 12 nidanas. It's a little hard to see, but if you get a better image of it, oh, there we go, that's better. So I'm trying to figure out which is which nidana. It's kind of hard to make it out. Within the outer ring are the 6 realms. And up at the top is the God realm. And where's the jealous God realm? This is hard for me to make out. Which realm?
I think it's this guy.
That one? And what's over on the other side of that? That one? Is that human realm, you think? Must be.
Wait. I have something better. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. Let's do this. Wait a second. Because I have a series of details. This is the animal realm.
Oh, there are lots of animals there in the water, birds, and then on the land too. You can see the elephant and the ox and so forth. This is the animal realm, and in each realm there is what's called a muni. That muni is another word, it means sage. And these are enlightened beings who come to help the denizens of these realms wake up and achieve enlightenment. So, you can see this muni here. Barry was touching him. This is the, which realm is this?
Oh, I think that's the hungry ghosts.
Maybe the hungry ghost realm.
And then the hell realm here.
And each one has its muni. And this must be then the animal realm. These are the 3 lower realms down here, the 3 bottom ones. Animal, hell, hungry ghost. Those are the ones you really want to avoid. And then the 3 upper realms are up here, and they'll be this one should be the God realm up here in the middle. And the jealous.
Hold on, here's.
Oh, this is the center.
Yeah.
And here we've got the 3 poisons: the chicken, the pig, and the snake, or the rooster, the pig, and the snake. The rooster is passion, the snake is aggression, and the pig is stupidity.
And then this is the God realm.
Yep. Looks like the God realm. Music, dance.
Hell realm.
There's a hell realm there. See, they're boiling in that pot.
Doesn't look good.
No.
This is the human realm.
Yep. Looks like. Where's the jealous God?
Here's hungry ghosts.
Yeah, hungry ghosts. You can tell they're hungry ghosts because they have big bellies and little teeny weeny necks. That's what a hungry ghost is. It has this endless appetite. So it has a big belly, but it can only take a little bit of teeny weeny, a grain of rice or a drop of liquid, one at a time through its tiny neck.
And everything they eat burns. And what's this? Oh, this is the jealous gods. So they're laying siege to the God realm.
Yeah, that's right. You can see there's a wall there, and they're on the right side of the wall, and the gods are on the other side. And there's a tree growing over there, just over the wall, that has fruit in it that they want. The jealous gods. I'll tell you, I used to think, I used to do a lot of coaching, and some of my clients were Wall Street traders. And I met a lot of jealous gods. These were people who wanted to be billionaires or multi-millionaires. And they were really powerful. They were warriors, fighting the battle on Wall Street. And that's what jealous gods are. They're warriors. They're fighting the battle. They want to get into heaven. Jealous gods. And then the gods are the ones who've already made it. And they're thinking, I got it made. Don't have to do much. Sit back and enjoy it all. Human beings are in the realm of passion, which means we're all appreciating. We're appreciating that Chateau Lafite 1922 versus the 21, which is 22 is so much better. Or we're appreciating that steak, that Chateaubriand steak that's just cooked to perfection, just the way I love it, or whatever it might be. That beautiful perfume that I'm wearing that smells so delightful. That's the realm of passion, the human realm. Each realm has its. You can really go into them. Hell realm. I used to live down in the East Village, and not that infrequently, I would see somebody walking down the street, pretty much in rags, screaming, talking to themselves, yelling. Hell realm. You're seeing hell. It can be bad. And gods, are people who think they've got it made. That's sort of the definition of the God realm. Whatever your circumstances, you say, yeah, I've got it made. I don't know, there's nothing I want. I really love where I am. They say of the gods, they live for a long, long time in the God realm. But eventually, like anything else that's created, it wears out. And when a god begins to fall, they begin to lose their beauty. They begin to have an odor that other gods don't like, and they avoid them. And it can be very painful for the god, and they can be plunged all the way into hell because of the disappointment. And after all, don't our lives just go like that, whatever realm we're in? Just feels like a minute ago that we were whatever age, 25. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. Who else?
And by the way, there's a whole chapter about this toward the beginning of the book, if anyone would like to explore it.
Trip.
Yeah, one, nice to be here with you all. So in listening to this, the realms and the Nidanas, I'm just curious how they the utility, the practical utility of that knowledge, our awareness of the realms and the Nidanas in our day-to-day lives. So and not a particularly well-articulated question, but there have been times where for a moment I might be able to see that I'm experiencing one of the realms. I've never gotten to the Nidana level, but I'm just curious, knowing that what these are, how does that translate into day to day?
We're on a path to awaken. Awaken from what? A dream. The dream of I and other. That dream takes many forms. These realms are depictions of the main prototypes, you might say. But sometimes our experience of a realm is very subtle, faint, but still there. And we can begin to become aware of how we are seeing the world through a filter, the filter of these realms. Now, these realms have three basic modalities of the ways that we experience them. The most fundamental is that all of us are born into the human realm. Literally, every one of us has a human body. That's the first level of understanding what a realm is. The second level is that each one of us as a human being can have a particular sort of realm neurosis that we carry with us for years. So we can be a human being that has the mentality of a god that thinks, I've got it made, I've got lots of money, people love me, they think I'm beautiful. Jesus, great, I got everything. The God realm. It could be that person that I saw walking down the street, screaming in rags. They're in the hell realm, mentally. Physically, they're a human being, but mentally, they're in the hell realm. And we tend to stay in one of these mentalities for a long time. It's like your ongoing sort of way in which you see yourself and your world. The third way is that momentarily, in a moment, we can experience a realm. So somebody comes up to you and says something nasty, I think you're a terrible person, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly we're, and we can be plunged into the hell realm or into the hungry ghost realm in an instant. And then a half an hour later, it's gone. It's evaporated because it was just a momentary event. Or someone comes up to you and says something really wonderful. I love you. I just want to tell you how much I admire you. You're such a terrific person. Oh, and we can feel our happiness and our pride rise. And suddenly you're in the God realm. But then, half an hour later, it's worn out and it's gone, and you're back to whatever your normal, that ongoing realm is. So these three modalities for the realms, three ways that we can experience them in our lives. Your pets, they're born into the animal realm. But sometimes we have a pet that we think has the mentality of another realm. So there can be a pet that has the mentality of a hell realm. It's just angry and frightened and vicious. Or there's going to be a pet that we think is just about ready to be a human being. I remember a dog that some friends of mine had that we all thought was just about ready to be reborn as a human being. It was very early on when we first met Tumba Rinpoche, and Paul and Michelle Matthews had this dog called Sativa. That was the dog's name. And we all thought it was basically a human being in a dog's body. So that was a good question. Thanks for opening that up. These three levels of the realms.
Can I ask a follow-up question? And thank you. So if you start to get a take on what your particular realm profile is, what can you do with that?
Kill yourself.
What are what's that?
Nothing. I'm sorry. What can you do with it?
Yeah. So if you know that you have a tendency towards jealous God or poverty, a hungry ghost, and you kind of can zero in on it, there are things you can, there's Dharma available to help see that more clearly, correct?
Yes, definitely. We're constantly being enjoined to see our mental workings, how they work, because usually we're so busy doing it that we hardly even know we're doing it. And if you can begin to see it, see how you're exercising your neurosis, in your thoughts, and that's what meditation is for. Meditation on the cushion, meditation off the cushion. You begin to see what's going on in your mind, and only then can you begin to let go of it. Otherwise, we're sleepwalkers, we're dreamers, we're living our dreams, our thoughts.
Are there specific practices for the different realms that are?
Not that I know of, but maybe there are, but I'm not familiar with any.
Thank you.
If I could offer something, I don't think these aren't things that you try to be cured of, right? It's more like if you walk outside and you know it's raining, then you take an umbrella. I mean, it's just, as John was saying, it's developing more awareness of what's going on, and then you can not be acting it, not be invested in it, not, it goes back to changing your allegiance. You can say to yourself, man, I'm in a bad mood today. Take a deep breath, relax, take a little care in how you interact with people.
How many times have we heard that other people see us and understand us in ways that we hadn't anticipated, that might be frightening even, or disappointing, critical, or positive. Well, we can begin to become aware of that, but not until we begin to become aware of what's going on in our minds. Judith, you're muted.
So I'm trying to place fear. Where does that come in to this categorization? I'm noticing I have a lot of fear lately. Fear on a national political level, fear for my husband's health, financial craziness, moths, and I've been just noticing all kinds of fear. Where do you put that in this scheme?
That's a good question. I mean, I could take a first shot at it. But I think
Do.
everybody here could take a shot at it too. And my first shot would be that it's another and a very powerful strategy for keeping the myth of I alive. I needs a story. It needs a drama to keep itself alive. Otherwise, it has no function, has no purpose. It just evaporates. It constantly needs some purposeful story. And dealing with fear is a very powerful one for keeping I alive and engaged.
So how that like relate to a realm or a nirvana?
I think it depends on how you see the world through your fear. If you see the world as you basically got this great situation, you're rich, but you might lose it, then you're sort of on the edge of the God realm. If, on the other hand, you see this world as being just awful, a constant threat, a constantly painful situation that you're afraid of, then you're seeing fear in the hell realm. If you see that you've got a lot, but you might lose it, and you want to hold on to it, and you can't quite get enough, then that might be the fear of the hungry ghost realm. In other words, I think that each realm has its own version of fear. Fear is fundamental to the existence of I, ego, the myth of I. It's the fear that I will disappear. I is constantly afraid, ipso facto, by definition, for its own existence, because it doesn't exist. So it's built in, that fear. Built in. As soon as I arises, there's fear that it's going to stop. So it's always looking for ways to reinforce itself. That's I's job. And mostly, we just sort of live through our habitual patterns. That's why we practice, try and wake ourselves up.
Yeah.
So we can.
So it's in every realm.
There can be fear in every realm, yeah. It's harder in the God realm. The higher up you go, the less fear there's going to be, but they're still there. Might be very faint in the God realm, but fear of losing all your wealth and fame and good looks and wonderful possessions. You might not think it's likely, but there's this little edge somewhere. Yeah, that could happen.
Oh, it's more than a little edge.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, I don't think it's the God realm.
Well, frankly, the chances are that most of us in this room are in the human realm. The human realm, you see, is the best realm to practice the Dharma. In fact, really, it's the only realm where you can practice the Dharma because it has the best combination of intelligence and unhappiness. The happiness to motivate you to look for something, to want to practice the Dharma, to understand this, and the confidence and intelligence to be able to do it. When you get to the God realms, the gods don't have any motivation. They're so happy, they don't give a shit. And the classic depiction of the gods, for instance, and I think of this as wealthy people, movie stars, whatever you want to call them, is that they're sitting up there in heaven and they're looking down on earth and they're seeing the human beings And they're saying things like, this is the way they're depicted in the classical texts. They're saying things like, well, I don't really understand what they're doing, but I think it's pretty great. And I'm going to throw down a whole bunch of flowers on them. That's the gods. They're just really dumb jocks, dumb people. Hell beings can't practice the Dharma because they're so consumed with suffering. They can't see straight. They're suffering so much. The human beings have the best chance, the best combination of absence of suffering and intelligence. And so in the scriptures, they say only human beings can practice the Dharma and get enlightened. And all beings have to evolve into the human realm.
Henry has a hand up.
Let me see what I was going to say here. I was just going to add that realm by realm, I experience like different textures of fear and like different modes or different flavors. And that way, it can be a more maybe interesting experience. So there can be more curiosity about what the sensation is and what aspect of, the sense of self is fearing annihilation. And for me, because I was in the hell realm and hungry ghost realm for so many years, decades, I got so sick of it. It's like I knew all of the nooks and crannies of those realms and then going to what Tripp was saying, I do feel there's a lot of practical use in understanding or exploring this kind of thing because it can offer direction. And I know that there is no direction technically, but for me, again, one way that I perceive is directionally, like this in relationship to that in terms of state. So if I've only ever known these realms, if I'm born into the human realm, and then I plummet into the hell realm and the hungry ghost realm and go back and forth, to understand that there are other states, if I've never perceived that in the environment, if I've never experienced another human being that is in those states, how do I know what else is available? So to study this or to meet somebody who's in another state, it's like a direction to be able to point awareness into something that is different, some kind of for me, I would start being around people who were already in states that I had never experienced before, mindsets I had never experienced before, so that I could absorb or just understand that there was a different way to live.
A different
a different way to live, a different way to perceive, a different way to see. And this gives more definition. It's like one of many, ways to talk about it, I guess, but it gives definition. So it's not so amorphous, like, where am I? You could be like, where are you ever? It's like you're in a circular room with no windows. But studying something like this, where there's like, obviously there's no true hierarchy, but in the beginning, that's how I related to it, is how do I open to a more expanded state? I didn't know what that meant. I never experienced it. I didn't know any people like that. So I do think that there's practical use, because you can point the awareness somewhere new, if you've never known that. I just thought I'd offer that because it came to mind. I don't know if that resonates with anyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, most of the people I know I would regard as being in the human realm psychologically, in the second sense, not only in your body, but in the ongoing mental sense of sort of which neurosis we've got. I remember a guy in college that I was part of a club. And whenever this guy came up to us, a group of others, I always felt he was hungry, that he was thinking he was less than, and was sort of trying to suck up and wanting to be included, which was his creation. And I think of him now as one of the few people I've known who seems to me to be clearly a hungry ghost. And then, as I say, I've seen hell beings here and there, especially in the slums of New York. I guess I've known some gods.
Valerie.
What do you guys
Yeah,
think? Hmm?
thank you for your comments from everyone. Henry, it occurred to me when you mentioned, how to recognize, and just lately, I'm not sure what to attribute it to, but I find myself with a person, and it's like, oh, he's reminding me of another person in a workplace. This is somebody in a workplace, my workplace, that I had a very difficult time with, somebody exhibiting similar behaviors in the workplace like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And all of a sudden, I'm like, ding, it's like, oh, he's like that person. And I think, maybe he has something to teach me if I'm open to it. So I'm like, I'm going to experiment when I'm with him to see how that my attitude, instead of fear or needing to close up and protect, maybe he's got something to teach me. Anyways, that just came to me while you were sharing, Henry. So thank you.
Thank you for that. It came to mind, what could be interesting is seeing how your relationship with that archetype of person has changed at this point in your life, because that's where that's for me how I'll feel like sustenance, like, I did grow. That relationship is different, or there was a trigger there, but it didn't get me like that time, or I moved through it. I have more tools now, or something like that.
Jen.
Unmute. So I'm surprised and perplexed of the 20 secondary kleshas. I'm saying that right. One of them is ebullience. That's kind of a personality trait. Tell me why this is bad, please.
I think it's just that you're inclined towards getting really happy. Ebullience. You're bubbling over.
Mm-hmm.
So just another form of entertainment, self-entertainment. If you're, sort of habitually doing it. That's my guess. But, it's open to everybody here.
Any other opinions?
It can also be a kind of manipulative intent.
But I think you have to be careful not to be hard on yourself. Like,
I mean, I'm hearing things like habit or entertainment as if it's something deliberate. it's seriously something I was born with. I mean, I guess it could be a manipulation tactic, but it's not something I'm forcing in any way, shape, or form. So, I will I was just very confused that, oh, I would never have put this in the category as being something like, something bad or undesirable or something to be changed. So,
Mhm.
Henry, the question was, what about ebullience? Where does that fit in?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, on the list of the 20 kleshas, that one of them is ebullience, which it's down there at the bottom of page 407 in the footnote. And I'm like, that's bad? No idea. I'm learning a lot today.
Well, I think all of these, they can be sane, enlightened even. The question is, are we using them habitually as strategies for maintaining ourselves? For maintaining I, for giving I something to do.
We're getting close to the hour, and Miriam.
Oh, yeah, we are. Miriam.
Yes, on the question of ebullience, I think that the way I understood it was more like a hypomanic state, like speeded up and pretty euphoric. And I think that psychologists understand that sometimes as a defense against depression. So you speed up in order not to get caught in, a downward spiral, so to speak. So that's a more psychodynamic interpretation of manic depression. But I think in your case, Jen, you're describing a real gift, which is good cheer, like a happy disposition. And that's a gift. I don't think it has to be seen as a pathological or even a defense mechanism. Yeah, that's more constitutional. But sometimes I have seen people try really hard to be happy in an almost forced kind of way, and then that sounds a little bit more like what John was saying around trying to keep the ego entertained. Anyway.
Oh, something for me to meditate on.
We're almost time to end. Any last comment from anybody? Well, should we do the closing chants?
Sure.
Let's see, who's going to lead? Don, do you want to lead the chants?
Sure.
Okay, I'll put them on the screen. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we'll close with a prayer for peace and with a dedication of merit earned by our practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. By the blessings of enlightened and compassionate ones, by the power of my positive actions of 3 times and my prayers of pure aspiration, may wars, conflicts, epidemics, and all other maladies dissolve in this world, and may the earth and all who live on this earth enjoy the abundance of well-being. May all learn to live lovingly with each other. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great East, May the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thanks, John. John Tyler. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks so much, everybody, John and everyone.
Judy.